Welcome everyone to the Consistently OK podcast. My name's Luke and I'm joined as ever with Nick, and we're here bringing you another pop culture episode. This week we're talking about the DCU and James Gunn and everything going on there, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're going to talk about the film and where we think things are going with the MCU. We also talk about the Mandalorian season 3 in the first few episodes, and we talk about The Last of Us, the TV show, and give our thoughts and review on how we thought the first season went and looking forward to season 2 and beyond. So join us, strap in, relax, put the kettle on. It's time for a Consistently OK time. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing all right, mate. Yeah, just like mad busy. Like things are releasing and whatever else on the work schedule. So it's carnage. How are you?
Carnage, wonderful carnage.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, well, let's get into it. Plenty to talk about. We haven't done one of these pop culture ones for forever because, as I said previously, I took a knock on the head, so I lost some memories. They've all come back now. And I'm good to go. So we'll start with the DC stuff. So there's a lot going on over the last couple of months. So James Gunn has taken over the DCU. Are they calling it the DCU now? Yeah.
It is
so
the
DCU. The DCU. That is smart. It's like the MCU, but with the D instead of the M.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. I think I was excited when I found out about the James Gunn involvement. I like James Gunn. I know we've spoken positively and negatively about his Marvel films before. I am still looking forward to the third Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think it's going to be like, I'm hoping that it's very different to number 2, because number 2 is very similar to volume 1. Number 2, volume 2, volume 1.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So I think it's going to be a bit of a sleeper hit because it doesn't feel like it's got much momentum right now.
I mean,
it doesn't, does it? I mean,
I guess they're still promoting Ant-Man, though, aren't they? Like,
yeah, they're still kind of promoting Ant-Man. It's going to come out of nowhere. I've just finished writing an article about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for work, and it feels kind of as if it's going to land on deaf ears because I don't know. I think we said this in the last podcast, but I feel it's kind of come at all of this DC stuff has come at an unfavorable time for Marvel because James Gunn's so on pushing all of his films, but it doesn't really feel like he's doing this at all for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because already his time has been taken up by the DCU. So just feels like it's almost, I think it will be very good, but it kind of feels like it's DOA before we even get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I said to you on like the last pop culture podcast we did that I feel like the Marvel bubbles burst.
Best.
Yeah. In that I feel like the cracks are starting to show, especially after phase 4. And I feel like there was a lot of people who had a lot of criticisms with it. And I feel like all of that has kind of culminated in Ant-Man, which we'll talk about later. But I feel like they need a big win, and Guardians could be it, which might be why they haven't shown a lot, is that they know they're onto something. Don't know.
I don't know if that'll be the big win, but I feel like it's going to go one way or another. People are going to enjoy the ride because it's the end of a trilogy, and a lot of people have a lot of good vibes with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
obviously the volume 1 was very well received. I know we are going to talk about it, but just very briefly, when we talk about Guardians of the Galaxy and James Gunn and obviously what's going to come with DCU, if you release Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 right now after everything that's come before, it does not get as well received as it did when it came out in Phase 2. It just doesn't, because it's heavy CGI, it's corny dialogue, It's a raccoon. It's a tree. La 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 la. If you put Ant-Man Quantumania as one of the first films that came out, that was one of the first quirky, out of this world type films. If you put that in phase two, critics love it.
See, I don't know. So I haven't
honestly think that is the case.
See, I haven't seen Ant-Man, Quantumania. Too long a title. No, it basically none of the trailers grabbed me for it, and the primary reason was that I was like, the only way that film works with Ant-Man v Kang is if the stakes are so high that it justifies Kang being an Ant-Man villain. Like Kang is like top tier, especially Jonathan Majors. Like, he's in a different realm of acting at the moment. He's on it, and I think everything I've heard about this film doesn't justify putting them against each other. In that Ant-Man has never been a thing about like the weight of a villain. It's been more a personal story. It's the story of like, I've got to get out of prison. I've got to get my kid. I've got to do all this. It's more like your stakes are smaller, but personal. Kang is like epic. And I've always just thought that those trailers try to sell a film which is like, this is going to change Ant-Man forever. And that is either somebody dies, as in Ant-Man, Hank Pym, whoever, or it leaves it at a point in which Ant-Man is ruined because he took on Kang. And that's how you set up that big bad for what's next. Everything I've heard about the film doesn't do that. It essentially gives you a film which is like, is Ant-Man in its soul, and that it's weird and wacky and colorful and glorious and full of bad jokes. But from a core like villain perspective, it never justifies who Kang is to Ant-Man.
No, it doesn't necessarily, no. But I think I disagree in the fact that Kang can't work in this film against Ant-Man. I think Kang is such a big deal, but you have to start somewhere with him. I know he was obviously in Loki as He Who Remains, but the idea with Kang is that he's going to pop up. He'll pop up in Loki season 2. He's going to pop up in probably multiple post-credit scenes. There's a billion of them around. That's the end credit scene is full of the Council of Kang. Kang the Conqueror, though, the one in this film, which is very well played by Jonathan Majors. It's unfortunate kind of the way that bit ends, but I don't think for a second that Kang the Conqueror is gone. I think he basically essentially gets sucked into
it's like a
portal thing. So he's going to be somewhere else. He's going to come back. The other Kangs all think that he's gone, but he was beaten. I mean, everyone's like, oh, he's defeated by ants. And yes, these big ants did run over him, but he survived that. He came back and again, Wasp and Ant-Man, they beat him up, but Kang gave a lot as well. And I think it was a good entry point for this character, because I don't think it's the end of it. There's obviously a long way to go with him to get to Avengers Kang Dynasty. It's going to happen. I just think that yes, it had its silly moments in there, but what Marvel film doesn't have their silliness in it these days? That's what you're used to, right? Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, very good.
Yeah.
Casey Lang, very good. Michelle Pfeiffer, very good. All worked. And it didn't take long to get going either. It was kind of like, this is a little bit of this, and then bam, straight into the quantum realm. Everyone knew it was fucking called Quantumania. Like, everyone knew what they were getting into. And I just think you can see, I know Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think you and I, either of us, really like, I don't watch a film based on a Rotten Tomatoes score. If I've heard good things, you can look at something like The Whale, right? Actually hasn't got great reviews, but it won an Oscar, and all these things and then you can't base an Oscar either. You've got to judge a film by what you make of it. Ideally, try not to read too much before you see it. But the critics said all this stuff about it, and then if it went further, it was earlier on, I don't think they would be saying that stuff. I think they'd be lapping it up. I really do. But it was a good film. It is a good film. Like I came out the cinema. Yes, I did lose my memory later that day. But I remember distinctly coming out thinking that was actually good fun. And my wife, she saw me, she really liked it as well. And it was just, I mean, Wakanda Forever was quite heavy, right? She-Hulk was
Yeah.
not very. There were the last two things before. You had She-Hulk, which I think was a bit of a mess,
Terrible.
and you have Wakanda Forever, which is quite a heavy film, but good for what it did. There was some bits that you and I both said we didn't like, but stuff we really did like.
Yeah.
And I think this was a good way to kick off this next phase. I actually do, because I think you got Kang in there. Yes, he's a big time player. Yes, he could have easily just been straight into an Avengers film, or like maybe he should have been like something like, I don't know, a Captain America film, but let's say it was Steve Rogers Captain America, that level threat. But he has to start somewhere, right? Or not start somewhere because he's in Loki, but this character, it all made sense as well. We're just talking about Ant-Man now. We will get back to the DCU thing.
Yeah.
But he just he was just so good. So I don't think it hurt him. I don't think it hurt the film. I don't think it hurt Ant-Man. I think there were stakes for Ant-Man, because at the end of the film, he generally does. He thinks he saved the world. Like, he's like, I saved the fucking world, and then he's like, did I save the world? And then there's this dread moment where it's kind of like, no, you didn't. Like, you didn't save the world. In fact, you might have made it 10 times worse. Like Kang said, if I go, everything else is going to go to shit. So there were consequences at the end, and I think it was. I mean, I'm rambling like I always do, but it was enjoyable, and it was funny. The bits that were funny, that were meant to be funny, were actually pretty funny. Not like, I think the only film that's really, really, I mean, Bucky and Falcon nodding their head in the car when Steve Rogers was going to kiss Sharon Carter was one of the best things. But Rocket and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 was very funny, but the bits that landed did land. And I've read numerous things about audience things all agreeing that it was actually good. Like, you don't trust the critics. It's going to be the same with Shazam, right? It's like a mixed bag. It's getting absolutely when it first came out, everyone was like, it's so good, it's so full of heart, it's so full of wonder and all that stuff. I thought it looked terrible from the trailers. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what it is. But then I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong about this, like, completely. Yeah. And now it's a mixed bag. People really like it. Critics don't like it that much. It's just like, but it's, I don't know. It's probably just okay, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, like the Shazam of it all, I think, is like a whole other kind of thing. And I think like the first one's great. Like, I love the first Shazam, but the problem they've got is that Black Adam came out last year, which is terrible.
I mean, we can talk more about Shazam when we talk about DCU or just split screen. But rounding up the Ant-Man thing, it is good. I think you are right. I think we said this last time. I think there is a bit of a bubble bursting with the MCU. I don't think the TV shows have helped. I think they've overcomplicated it and also stretched the limits of what people have an appetite for. When you and I started doing this podcast, we were like, oh, there's like a Marvel TV show. So there's something Marvel every week over the course of the year. I think if you were to take away like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, things like that, and just have like maybe 2 shows, like your Loki and your WandaVision, and then you have like a werewolf special, like that is probably enough to tick people over while they wait these 4 months for the next film.
Yeah.
Then you think about the gap between Infinity War and Endgame, right? That was like monumental. That was like, fucking hell, like, if I don't get something soon,
well, we had
Ant-Man, kill anyone. Because it was Captain Marvel in between, wasn't it?
And Ant-Man 2, because Ant-Man 2 ends with the snap, right?
Yeah, so we had 2 films then.
Yeah.
So you had something, but it felt like a long time, right? Like the wait for Infinity War and Endgame, it did for me. I mean, Spider-Man turned to fucking Dustnik. Show some heart. But but you didn't have any TV shows in between, did you?
No, but I felt like
shows.
I felt like having those 2 films, both with post credits related to it, gave me enough of a taste of like kind of reminding me of the consequences of it.
Yeah, so you had enough. Yeah, you got enough, right? But if you imagine that it was Infinity War and then that went into, I don't know, Loki season 1, then Captain Marvel, then a Spider-Man TV show, and then this, and then another TV show, all centered around that, you would be, by the time you got to Endgame, which is a 3.5 hour film, whatever, you'd be like, oh man, that was really good, but Jesus Christ, like, it's a lot of Marvel. Me, as big of a Marvel fan as I am, even I think there are times where, like, you know what, like, it's a lot. Like, we didn't get enough during COVID because it kind of calmed down a bit, but it is a lot. And I kind of feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of ready to go again now because it feels like She-Hulk was quite a while ago now. I don't know why. Again, if it's because I had a knock on the head, but Quantumania kind of felt like he gave it a bit of an injection, like a bit of a bam, like we're good to go again. Because Phase 4 was a bit of a mess. It really was. Like introduces so many characters. Some things were good, some things didn't land. And I think with Quantumania, they kind of like said, almost things are going to go nuts, but that's the direction that we're going in. Like it's going to get crazier, but then we're gonna bring it back down as well. Like I think they need. I think they're just going with it now, going with the crazy. And Kevin Feige said they've made some missteps, hasn't he? But it's,
I think from
it's a good film, Nick. It's just a good film. It's not groundbreaking. You're not gonna like, I'm not gonna go and buy like a special edition Blu-ray of it or anything like that. But it's good. Like it was good, and I think it's been harshly criticized by critics because I think, and I do honestly think that there are a lot of people out there that they do get assigned films, right? They get assigned films to watch. Like, if I put my one of my brother on it, who's not a comic fan at all, isn't like, and he was a film reviewer. If I give him, you got to watch The Godfather, you got to watch Ant-Man. No, you got to watch Ant-Man, but he really wants to watch something like The Godfather. He's going to be like, I don't know what I'm watching here. Like, this is just, what is this?
See,
and you can see it in some of the reviews. You can read it. You just think like they don't know. Like they're talking about these characters as if like, they've never picked up a comic book in their life, but they probably haven't.
But that is why I think Marvel has failed recently, right? So like Marvel did such a good job of going like, here's Iron Man, here's Captain America to a bunch of people who are like, I literally don't care about superheroes. And then it captured people. It was like, I care about superheroes. I want to read comics. I want to play the games. I want to do all this. And then what they've done is that they've just fallen into this trap of like formulaic, like we don't know what to do with season 4. Like we hit such a high with Endgame, and everybody came out of that film was like, how the fuck do you ever follow that? And the reality of it is that you kind of can't. Like
you can't. It's too tough.
It
is tough to follow
with it. And I feel
the
like
Infinity Saga is too tough to follow, really, and that's why they're going to struggle. They'll get back to it.
Yeah,
like they'll pick up. You got to think about everything that's coming, right? They've got Fantastic Fours, Spider-Man and Daredevil are probably going to join forces. Got 2 more Avengers films, which we haven't. Like they're the big ones, aren't they? Like there's plenty out there, but they need to. And Quantumania was nuts, but they just need to hone in on and no one knew where Phase 4 was going. Like there wasn't a big bad established, was there? But if you can throw in, obviously now we know it's Kang, but if you can tease like a Doctor Doom or something like that during this as well, then I mean, I think it will turn back round. But obviously now, which we'll link into now, is that we've got the DCU, which will go side by side. So is that gonna make it harder for Marvel? Is it gonna make it better because the DCU could suck? Like, so those are things I guess we'll talk about now. So with the DCU, then we've got James Gunn taking over, as we said at the beginning before I started talking about Ant-Man, like I was supposed to do later. That's classic. So he's taken over. He's released his first slate of films. He's called it Chapter 1, changed it to DCU. Chapter is called Gods and Monsters.
Yeah.
When he announced it, there wasn't really many people linked, but in the last week, he's announced that he is the one who's going to direct. He's also writing a new Superman film, which is Superman Legacy, which is based off a very good Grant Morrison comic. There's also The Authority, which I kind of think is definitely one I wouldn't have picked for this first slate, but here we are. So The Authority is The Brave and the Bold, which is a Batman and Robin story, Damian Wayne. There's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is a very, very good Tom King comic. So I'm down for that, I guess. And there's Swamp Thing. I love old Swampy. Swampy makes me very happy. So I'm also excited by that. So there are 5 films then in this slate, but there's also some animated films as well, I believe.
Yeah, there's the Creature Commandos,
Creature Commandos, yes. Which he said the people who do the voices for Creature Commandos, they're going to act in as well.
Yeah.
Which makes me a bit hesitant because I always feel like that stuff is subject to change. It's kind of like, we're going to give you this, but it's probably going to change down the line.
Difficult, isn't it? He wants to create like a succinct universe across like animation and games and stuff, doesn't he? It's like animation,
It's
games,
tough.
film. That is like a big commitment for any actor.
And it's a big commitment because there's already so much going on, right? And
Mm.
that's why I mentioned earlier about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because he's still got that to promote. He's still got actors and stuff. I mean, bearing in mind, when he was doing the Suicide Squad, he's like, this is the best cast I've ever worked with. They're so good. It's the most fun I've ever had. But, then he has to go back and work with the cast that he openly loved the first time. And I know it's different, but still. Sorry. I know it's different, but still, he seemed to have already moved over a little bit. Like maybe this was in the pipeline when he was recording, doing the Suicide Squad. So anyway, these slated films, I didn't feel overly hyped about any of it. I do love DC Comics. That's not just because I'm a Marvel fan either, but I do love DC Comics. I do like all of the comics that are on this list. I like all the Swamp Thing stuff. I like the Supergirl stuff, but it just doesn't sit right because there's so much to come out. I think if you knew that when the Flash landed, it was going to completely change everything. So there are some people that could stay put, like Amanda Waller could stay put because there's some big event in Flash and the Flashpoint stuff that goes on. But then you've got Aquaman that comes out after the Flash, and it just seems so odd. And I mean, they might have re-recorded scenes, which I think they've done anyway to cut what's her name?
Michael Keaton.
No,
Mira?
in Aquaman, Mira. Yeah, what's her name? Amber Heard.
Amber Heard. Yeah, yeah.
So they might have made some changes there because Jason Momoa sounds like he's staying on in the DCU. But just was weird. And obviously you got Shazam, like we mentioned earlier briefly, like Black Adam, and at the end of Black Adam, Henry Cavill's Superman, and Superman now Henry Cavill's not Superman, and then you've got like Shazam still coming out, and there's apparently Wonder Woman is in Shazam.
Cool.
But it's not Wonder Woman. It's like someone else playing Wonder Woman. They deep.
Oh no, I thought Gal is actually in it.
I don't know. I read someone.
I'm pretty sure I've seen a picture and it's like legit
deep
her.
faces.
Yeah, no, I think I have seen a picture and she's like fully in the film, and it's not like a post credits.
So she's in there then. So that's obviously doing very badly at the box office now, isn't it? It's not open very well. I think it's done like 30 million and things, and getting a bit panned by critics, and audiences are liking it. And there's obviously that dynamic where it's like critics don't like it, but we're gonna fucking love it. Like there is that as well, which is the same for Ant-Man as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's like I just don't know. I just don't think. I wish all this came out after everything had come out. Like I wish they'd just done it in 2024. Like we have the Flash movie. Cool, that's a really good moment. Something happens in the end credits, maybe to tease that Ezra Miller's going to stay. Maybe if they are high on them being part of still Flash. Yeah. And then Aquaman comes out, and it's like that was the end of that. We're all moving on with our lives. My name's James Gunn. Here's the chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and join us, and then they slowly start announcing people, but they've done it like it's just not done yet. It just feels so weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I like James Gunn, and I enjoyed Peacemaker. I didn't enjoy the first couple of episodes, but I enjoyed the rest. Suicide Squad, I was mixed on. I just thought it was okay. It wasn't revolutionary. It didn't blow my mind. First Guardians is great. Second Guardians is the same as the first film.
It is the same film,
which is okay. But none of this. I think part of the reason I didn't get excited is that I struggle to get excited about a film or a series until I see a cast, until I see a director, until I see a cinematographer. Like those things, and a score. Like those things are the ones where you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like thinking back to something like Joker, when Joker was announced and it was Todd Phillips is directing and Joaquin Phoenix is going to be Joker. It's like, who the fuck would have ever thought Todd Phillips would direct a Joker film? And secondly, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then you see that film and it's like, that is amazing. Like that worked on every level.
And same with the Batman, right? Batman came.
Yeah, it was Matt
Reeves signed up, and then Robert Pattinson was Batman. It was like Robert Pattinson as Batman, but then you see Colin Farrell as Penguin, and you see Paul Dano as Riddler, and you see the score and everything, and it just all comes together, and you're pumped, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with this, is that it doesn't give me context, because yes, I'm a fan of DC the same way I'm a fan of Marvel, but I think I've got to a point now where I can't blindly follow it. Like, I can't just go, oh, it'll be amazing because it's what I want, because it might not be. Like, the amount of superhero stuff I've seen where I'm like, that's dreadful. Like, why does that exist? Venom, like, amazing character,
Venom, 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 Venom,
utterly terrible
Venom.
films, like, so bad. Why is there a third? Um, but again, like, I get that, that's a take that some people will love who maybe haven't come from the comics. Um, and I think that's the thing that I was kind of saying with, like, critic reviews of superhero films, is that I feel like at the moment, because there's so many superhero things, you need to be saying something or doing something new, and like actually progressing it as a form to grab people. Like, if you can grab the person who isn't a fan, because you've got fans day one, like, that, if you go, I'm a huge Ant-Man fan, okay, I'm going to go see that film no matter what. But to the person who's like, yeah, I watched the other two because they were linked to the Infinity Saga, I don't know if I'm going to watch this one, because you need to grab that person. Like, that needs to be their thing, is that it's you, like, it needs to encompass everybody, not just fans. And I think that's the thing that so many places are doing wrong at the moment, is that they are leaning into, well, this is what fans want. And it's like, well, no, give us, like, take a stab at something new. Like, I know obviously I'm slightly hypocritical with this, because I really hate The Last Jedi, but I can appreciate the intent to be like, let's do something different. It's not so much like plot that I have an issue with The Last Jedi. It's the fact that it ignores everything that came before, and it wrote a film that was in the middle of a trilogy that was like, you're abridging, and you're not anymore. You've just written a solo thing. But something like Andor in Star Wars, again, to tie it to this, I didn't know I needed a Cassian Andor story, but it's turned
We
into,
did.
like, yeah, it is literally my third favorite Star Wars production. It's like Empire, Rogue One, and now Andor, because it is just so original. It's just everything. And it's because it took those stabs at kind of going like, okay, here's the Star Wars universe, but you know what? It doesn't have to be written like the Star Wars universe. It can be something new. And I think that's what superheroes need at the moment, is that breath of fresh air, which is what you get with something like Batman, which is like, the Batman is saying, it is a superhero film, but it's kind of like Zodiac. It's like a serial killer Seven type thing. You've got Joker, which is obviously like its own kind of take on a villain. And like, they're the stuff with DC and Marvel to an extent that interests me, where it's like, ooh, you've taken something there that I wasn't expecting. Like, that was the thing I liked about Black Panther as well, is that obviously that film is surrounded in tragedy, but the way that they like use that tragedy in a creative way to give you grief on film is amazing. Yeah. Everything else around surrounding that film isn't great. Like, the CG is really bad. They've obviously just taken out the Predator killer from that terrible Predator film, put it in the film, like, copy and pasted, and that doesn't work. But the last scene is just harrowing, and like the opening's harrowing, and those are things where I'm like, oh god, like, you've done this in a superhero film. I respect that. And I feel like that's the thing that is missing now. And it's really sad. And that's the thing that James Gunn hasn't done yet, is like, because it's just, here's a list of the stuff we're making, it hasn't been, here's like a vibe, here's the director, here's the writer, like, here's who we're doing this with, to give you a sense of like, oh, this could be really different, like, this could be something new. And I think they're the things that I need. Like, I was thinking about Shazam earlier on, right? And like, Shazam, there is this version of it which is like, you could make a perfect quadrilogy here of Shazam 1, which is the exact same film that it is, Black Adam, but that opening scene, which is probably like the best part of Black Adam, where he just annihilates everything, Put that at the end. So he annihilates Kandak and is like, this is mine now. And you're like, that's a villain. Like, he's just murdered everyone in Kandak to make it his own. And present it as the only person who can stop him is somebody who has equal power. That is Shazam. Have Shazam 2, same film, no worries. But the end of it, you've got Billy Batson and the Shazam family with the responsibility of like, you're the only ones. Like, there is no one else, and you are kids, but we are relying on you because that is the only thing that we can do. Is that if he's just done that to Kandak, who's next? And then you have a third film, which is the two of them. It's like, that is a interesting superhero quadrilogy because it's layered. You've got kids having to take responsibility as adults. You've got a story about a villain that you think wasn't a villain, and it turns into that. And it annoys me that it's like,
I agree with you. I 100% agree with.
It's so close
with all of that. I do think they've lost their way a little bit. I know I've bigged up Quantumania stuff, and I do believe that they will find their way again with it. But what I do think with the DCU is that they've put all these films out there now. People are buying comics like the Supergirl comic and stuff. Yes, it's popular all of a sudden, but
it's great.
Like you said, we don't have really any more context to it. Like we don't.
Yeah,
there's no one attached to it, and you probably won't get excited until then. But I think, as much as I like James Gunn, I do like him. I like a lot of his films outside of the Marvel stuff as well, and the DC stuff. But it's kind of like, do I think he's the guy that's gonna make the DCU what the MCU was pre-Endgame? I don't know. I think there's a bit. I think there's a lot of room for error, like I said, with the voice cast and stuff, and trying to sync everything across all the platforms is a very big ask, right? There's no way even Marvel could do it. Even now, with them linking their films and their TV shows, there's a lot of like chronological issues there, isn't there? Like what came before what time are we in? Where are we? There's a 5-year gap now. Okay, so what year are we in? Oh, we're in 2025, but they have the option to reset it at some point. They can reset everything if they want to. Like if they do Secret Wars, then Secret Wars is kind of like a very, very big incursion, isn't it? Which is what Doctor Strange talks about. So they could reset everything. That's how you can get your Miles and your Peter Parker in the same universe. But DCU now, it's such a mess already that it feels like there's no context to how they're going to tide it up, because they're like, oh, we're going to keep this actor and we might keep Ezra Miller as well because Flash is the best film I've ever seen, and you got Tom Cruise raving about it as well.
Yeah.
But then it's better just to start completely fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously a lot hinges on Flash, and because like Aquaman, they can backdoor tie in, right? Where if you do enough small changes to say it's taking place in a reality that is post Flash, it works. Like if you're not adhering to Ben Affleck's Batman or whatever, then it can take place in the DCU. Technically,
it can take place when it takes place, but then at the end of the film, there's a post credits where something that happens in Flash transports Aquaman to a completely different reality, or like the new timeline. But then it's like, does that Aquaman, the way he is as Aquaman, does that fit with James Gunn's vision? Because what is James Gunn's vision if he's taking elements of what was essentially a Zack Snyder thing?
Yeah.
In James 1 and everything like that Snyderverse that had all these guys culminate in Justice League. They all, Patty Jenkins and stuff, they all built these characters and they all knew they were going to end up in Justice League. And Zack Snyder was that guy. But you can't. What frustrates me, you can't make a new Superman and you've got the Authority and you've got Supergirl. And bearing in mind, there's a Supergirl in the Flash as well, or Superwoman. Right?
They haven't confirmed whether it's the same, have they?
So you don't know. So you don't know these things. So we're like being led blindly into this new era, but it doesn't actually feel like a new era. It kind of just feels like James Gunn is going to plaster over some cracks.
Yeah.
And then we'll get through this chapter 1 and chapter 2 will be like, hey, it's a Justice League again, but it's like a younger Superman and an old Batman, but Robin's there as well, and he's running around being mental because he's Damian Wayne. And I don't know, it just feels a bit awkward, and it comes at a bit of a bad time for me in terms of what I think about DC, because you got something like the Suicide Squad game as well, which just looks
Terrible.
shit. Just looks so bad.
Don't know
We were
why.
so excited about it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. But I remember saying to you after that first
I don't know
trailer, saying it looked a bit Fortnite, and that was the only thing that worried me, was that it was kind of like, it's colorful and it could be Fortnite, and it kind of still looks like Fortnite.
Just look like Fortnite. Looks like King Shark is in Fortnite.
Yeah, terrible.
I just don't know why. I just got no. I'm not even stupid. So I mean, I think that looks awful.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't overly. I'm excited about a bit of this announcement from James Gunn. Like I'm happy that we're. I think because I think we need to move on. I know you love Zack Snyder. I think we need to move on from the Zack Snyder stuff now. I think we just need to. He's either, if he's not going to do it, and they're not going to release the David Ayer Suicide Squad, and they're not going to do any more Zack Snyder stuff. I think you just completely wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
You say it's done, put it down to like a failure for most of it. And there are some gems in that thing, like Man of Steel and stuff like that. But okay, we're just going to start again. We're going to give you a new Batman. There's going to be a new Superman who you're going to grow up with, because, or he's going to be younger, so you're going to see him like become this big superhero. And there's loads you can do with that. We're going to do this and do that, but instead it's kind of like, yeah, we're going to bring these guys back, and yeah, maybe this person will show up, and hey, there'll be a post cameo of this, and you obviously everyone's pissed off The Rock recently, and then The Rock didn't watch Shazam in his film, and it's all this stuff. And it's kind of like, why now? Like just hold off for another year. Like no one had to know anything. Like James Gunn could have got the job. He could have written all this stuff, and then he could have announced it at the beginning of 2024. I just feel a bit disillusioned with it. Like,
I think a lot of
you
that
said, everything's oversaturated, isn't it? So it's there's a lot going on with it all.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, like the reason why they announced it, is that it was because of that turmoil, that it was kind of like, like obviously I love Snyder's stuff, but I'm happy to accept, like, we got Snyder's Justice League, like there was never going to be more. Like as much as I would want it, those actors A, moved on, and B, the cost of it to do what he wanted to do is like, that's not something you could just bang out. Like they're massive films. I think they should, like, in a better world, they should have just seen Snyder's thing through, ended it, restart, right? Because that could have been.
They can't restart it. Just reading now, and they've got a Waller TV show, so Amanda Waller, and that's, you got Peacemaker season 2. Obviously, Peacemaker season finale had the Justice League in it. They seriously have to do something mega at the end of this Flash film, right? Like that's the only card they can play.
Probably, in that it like completely resets everything. But then I guess they will pick and choose in terms of, like, Ezra is technically Snyder related. Harley Quinn, technically Snyder related, because Suicide Squad isn't a Snyderverse thing. Like it basically, it needed to essentially be like, commit to Snyder, finish that, reboot completely. Like that was like
that's how I would have done it. And that's why I wish it had come later. But even if it was announced now, like it is, I wish it was kind of like, enjoy, because James Gunn did say that, like, enjoy Shazam, enjoy Flash, enjoy Aquaman.
Yeah, like, I mean, he sort of tied them all in. We're going to
start our slate. But then it's kind of like, Jason Momoa was popping out of the studios looking like, I don't know, James Gunn told him the best news in the world, and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be Lobo, but no, he's still going to be Aquaman. And then Flash is getting good reviews or good feedback, and then Shazam is just like, Shazam was doomed from the start, wasn't it, really, when all this started happening? But I don't know, just a bit of a mess, Nick. I'm not overly excited. I am excited about, I like the idea that they're going to do a Lanterns TV show. I think that's a very good idea for a TV show. But again, it's a lot as well. We've got films with TV shows, and it's going to come thick and fast, and it's going to be, we're all going to be, no matter how much we love comics and things, but we're all going to be through in 2025. We're going to have, like, I don't know, 4 Marvel films, 4 Marvel TV shows, 2, 3 DCU TV shows, Joker 2, Penguin TV show, which, I mean, that's going to be just brilliant. But there's a lot, and it is a lot on top of. The only thing is to keep us down is that we've got the Marvelous Ms. Maisel season finale to come. So we got that shit to come. But I don't know, just a bit disillusioned by it all. I'm hoping for the best. Not expecting a lot, but I I want to be surprised. Hopefully, I just think I think he has. It's a bold thing to go with Superman first. But I mean, Snyder went with Superman first, didn't he? So I think he has to get it right because there's a lot of Snyder fans out there still. So if this is kind of like a fluffy Superman version, I don't know how much he's taken from the Grant Morrison comic, the All Star Superman comic, but it's the cover he keeps sharing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm the same. That like, I'd love it to work. I think I'm just at a point now where it all needs to be saying something, and it all needs to be doing something. You know, like that's why I'm excited about the Elseworlds stuff. Is that that's your room to actually make a superhero film that is like, I didn't expect it. Like Joker 2, wicked. Batman Part 2, awesome. The Penguin TV show, awesome. Like those things I'm very excited about, and more excited about than any other superhero thing, because I know that they've all got a stamp which is, this doesn't feel like other superhero stuff. It feels like its own thing.
They have to keep it away, don't they? They have to keep it away. I know they said they're going to. I know it's like its own like branch, but Sammy God, if Robert Pattinson Batman shows up in bloody Shazam 3, I'll cry.
No, I think it will stick differently.
All right, so we'll move on then from the DCU. It sounds like we're really excited. So there's not much more we can say about how excited we are.
Yep.
So when we did our last pop culture episode, we got 2 episodes into The Last of Us. It's now finished. It's done. All 9 episodes are out. What did you make of it on the whole, Nick?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I was thinking about this earlier on. I was like, I don't know what I'd give it in terms of a consistently rating, because as a show, I think it's great. Like it did everything it needs to. It hit all the right beats, and it looked great, and the score was obviously great. But I mean, it's literally the same as the game. My 2 criticisms of it, yeah, so good. Bella Ramsey, which I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think it's more possibly the way that they've written Ellie for the show, is that I think Ellie doesn't have the usefulness that she has in the game. In the game, it's this kid who is taken out the QZ and witnesses like the world at large, but a world that is fractured and obviously has these infected and stuff. And that's part of its charm, is that you get these moments of Ellie being like, wow. Wow. Contrasted with like the pure just pain and suffering of that world. And that's the thing that you kind of like, that's beautiful to kind of see, is those moments are peppered throughout. Whereas this Ellie's a bit more hardened. This Ellie's a bit more almost like, that's what I expect of the world, is that it's going to be rough and it's going to be hard. And so I think when it got to the end of it, that was the thing that I just didn't have a grasp on, was the like watching Ellie hack apart David in the game. You're like, I'm so sorry you had to go through this. In the game, it gives you that sense of like uncomfortableness. In the show, I was more like, finally she got to kill someone, because it felt like that's what they were leading her to. So that kind of my only criticism there. And then the other one is just that things happen much quicker when you take gameplay out, and it's noticeable. Like that last episode, I was like, wow, this has moved quick, like really quick. And it's got all the same beats, but it misses those sections where you're like,
it takes away a lot of the anticipation, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh my god, like this is like, it's good, like in terms of just, if I hadn't known the game, I'd think this is probably fine. But with the game, I'm kind of like, whoa, this has moved very quickly into Endgame, and I don't know how I feel about this. Yeah, how about you?
I liked it. I was a big fan. I enjoyed a lot what you said. I enjoyed. I think the beats were good, and I think score was great. I liked the acting. I really grew to like Bella Ramsey as Ellie. I wasn't sold on her in the first. I think I said in our first talk about it, I wasn't that sold on her, and that's nothing to do with a lot of people saying the way she looks and stuff. I don't really give a shit. I think she looks absolutely fine as Ellie. I felt like I invested a lot of time with Ellie in the game. Like I felt like I wanted it to be a certain way in the TV show, and the more it went on, the more it kind of just felt like it was Ellie from the game as well. So I think she did a fantastic job, and Pedro Pascal as well as Joel. I wasn't as sold on him at the beginning, but again, I warmed to him as it went on. I think for me, and again, I did say this before, just reiterating that I never thought season 1 should have been the whole game in one season. I honestly think they could have done 9 episodes, but spread it out more. I think they did jump a bit. I think it was very, in the game, it felt like it took a really long time for Joel and Ellie to realize what they meant to each other, right? And there's a bit when they get to the university, which I was really disappointed they didn't go all in on, because I loved the bit of the university in the game. And it was kind of like they're monkeys and then they got attacked. But that's when that scene opens, it's kind of like with this, we mean this to each other now. We've been through all of this horror behind us, and like you said, Ellie's been killing. Ellie's done like bits, and it's dark, and it's all these rooms they've gone through and everything. But in this, it kind of was like, okay, so there's the Henry stuff, and then it's like bam, like they're at Tommy's, and Joel's like, I don't want to take her, you got to take her, Tommy. And then he kind of reluctantly goes with her. And then just the next thing is they're like, he means everything. She means everything to him.
Yeah.
And she's very close to it. It just kind of felt like it was either missing a couple of episodes, which probably would bring it up to too many, 11 like hour-long episodes, or they should have spread out. I personally probably would have stopped it I would have invested more time at things like the university and things, had more of the clickers in it, had more of the runners in it, more infected. I loved the idea with the fungus and like it funnels through a channel. And I probably would have stopped it when like in the snow with the cannibals. Like I think that would have been my season finale, which maybe isn't as epic as the one we got. But I think you could have then done 9 episodes of the rest of the season at the end of season 1. You could have really gone into the Firefly stuff even more. But you're right, it is different when you play a game to a TV show, so if they have to cut it down a little bit. But I liked it. I still enjoyed it. It was really quick at the end. Like it was very quick. Like the moment he gets off that bed and he's like, "Where's Ellie?" And then it's like, bam, bam, bam. It just feels like he takes no time at all. Whereas so again, in the game, it's like stealthy. Go, come back. Like where the fuck am I gonna go? Get killed. Come back again. Going under the tunnels and getting to the hospital. Sorry, like that whole thing is drawn up. But again, I guess it would feel very Walking Dead-like if they're just constantly walking all the time. And doing these things. So although I'm being a little bit critical now, I also thought it was very well done in terms of probably one of the best video game adaptations around. I think it was very well written. Definitely. I think you felt for a lot of the characters, even the ones that were on the screen for a short time, like Tess, things. I mean, you felt for the Fireflies, like what's the lady's name? The one at the end who promises to save, look after Ellie. I can't remember her name now. Begins with M. So, Marlene, is it?
Yeah, Marlene. Yeah.
Marlene, yeah. So, you feel for her. You feel like her decision is tough, obviously, even more so for her because you actually see a flashback of Ellie being born. And
that was great. Yeah, that was really
good.
With
the girl who plays Ellie in the game,
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson, yeah. So, you felt more for her because she's gone through this and she's looked after Ellie and she's helped raise Ellie a little bit. And then, she's doing this because it's for the greater good. Interesting, you get that sense of like, hey, you know what's coming now because we've all played part 2. So, Joel's killing Abby's dad. Yeah. And there's a lot of like, I saw a lot of people like, there's a girl with a braid running through the hospital. That's Abby. I was like, it's not Abby, 100% not Abby. But at least coming out of this now, we know where it's going. We know now season 1's done, but they've openly said that season part 2 will be over several seasons.
Yeah, which is good.
If they were to turn around and say to me that we're going to do all part 2 in 10 episodes, I'd be like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it would never happen.
10 episodes covers like what I thought was the whole game in part 2 when get to is it Seattle, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like Seattle day 1, 2, 3. And
yeah, so you got. I mean, you could do it really smartly, couldn't you? You can have like, you can have Joel and Ellie. You can have like an episode just about Abby, and then you can have like a bit more Joel and Ellie, and then you can have, season 1 could actually end with Abby killing Joel. Season 2, sorry, could end with Abby killing Joel, right?
Yeah,
and then
I don't know how they.
Season 3 is all about fucking revenge.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, because I was saying to my partner about this, because we both really like Abby, and we were saying the hard thing to do is that Abby is the reason you start to like Abby is because of Lev, right? That you realize that for Abby it was kill one person and then move on, and her moving on was like, I've met Lev, this person needs help, and through this person I am growing as an individual and moving past everything that is in the past. While Ellie is like, I'm going to take everyone and then you. And you, as a player, you're like, Ellie, just stop. I don't know how you do that on screen without.
I think they have to rejig it, don't they? I think they can't. Yeah, they can't do the Abby killing Joel, because Pedro Pascal is going to have to be there for the majority of the season, right? And then the thing about him is, like, in season 3, you can have like the episode where they go into the rocket and everything.
Yeah,
those flashbacks will be really powerful later down the line, because he won't be a main character anymore. He'll be a recurring character. But I think you have to. I think because there'll be people that haven't played the game, obviously, but you have to almost get people on Abby's side.
Yeah.
Early on, obviously in the game, you're not on her side at all, because you hate her. You really hate her.
Yeah.
At the start, you hate her, and then it's only at the end where you kind of like, fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a girl. Her dad was trying to save the world. This guy's just shot him, and you want revenge. And I said this in the last episode. Like, if I, if I was someone and I got shot, and this was an apocalypse, and I died, I'd fully expect both my kids, Leonora and Caspian, to go and raise fucking hell and avenge me.
Yeah.
So don't, because you don't know, and all the people Joel killed in the hospital, like, they've probably got kids. Like, I mean, they're all doing all of it is wrong, but it's a dog eat dog world in The Last of Us at this point, isn't it? So that's half of why you get up in the morning. It's like revenge, toast, and revenge.
Yeah,
like sounds like an Eddie Izzard joke.
Yeah.
So cake or death. So I think they could do it, but I think they've got to rejig it. I think they've got to get people on Abby's side, because there's going to be a bit of backlash straight away, because they're going to probably cast a very, very muscly woman, and people are going to lose their fucking marbles about it. And then they're going to cast like a non-binary kid and all this stuff, and they're going to go mental.
Yeah. My thought with it was that go bold, and first episode of season 2 is Abby's side of the day at the hospital, and so you open season 2 with Joel just killed this person's dad, and that's your emotional in, is that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then you see that trauma and you see that pain through Abby, and so you are sympathetic with Abby up front.
That's probably so that's probably you're in then. You're right. It's probably that's the way to get people on Abby's side quickly.
Yeah.
Even crazier, although not the right way to do it, is open it right with Joel dead.
Yes.
And Abby just walking off with, is it a golf club she uses?
Yeah.
And just Ellie screaming in the background, right? And then you cut to them in Tommy's town, and it's just like, everything's all right. Like, Ellie's just like, yeah, you didn't lie to me, right? Fireflies definitely did all that shit. And Joel's like, yep. And then obviously he's dead, because he's dead in the future. I don't know why I'm laughing. Anyway, so to rate it then, I know you said it's difficult to rate. I thought it was very good. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. 7, I don't know how do we rate again? 7 consistently okays?
Yeah, 10 consistently okays. Yeah.
I would give it 7.
Okay. I'd go higher, like, even though I do have issues with it, but I think it's a solid 8 or a 9. Like, I thought
I would give it.
I loved it. I just have issues.
I could give it more because I really liked the little snippets at the beginning before the music. We said that, didn't we? I love the opening. I love the first scene in the first episode. I like it with the lady who's saying things that are like, we need to bomb this city because it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So I missed those little clever bits there that you didn't get in the game.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped. So,
yeah.
But I did love the theme music, and I thought the score was great. I thought it was very well acted.
That third episode as well just is insane with Bill and Frank.
The third episode is very good. I thought the cannibal episode was very good as well. I thought they did a really good job of like building up the cannibal to be like, he's what his situation is, and you kind of feel like seeing the dynamic between those two. And she was in the cage, and he was talking, and he's like almost making a move on her. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Can't wait for season 2. I do miss it already. I enjoyed watching it on Monday evening. So yeah, I look forward to more. All right, so we'll wrap up this pop culture episode then. So let's talk about something that's come back on recently. By the time this is out in the world, which is on the 5th of April, we are releasing this episode. So we'll probably have another 2
episodes,
maybe have been released. Yeah, I think. But as of recording, we've seen the first 3 episodes. The 4th one dropped today, but neither of us have watched it yet.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have Mando back. I've missed him. I love the Mandalorian. I love the music at the beginning. It gets me so hyped.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of seamlessly just kind of gone back into it. It's not really taken long for it to find its feet again. I thought, I think, I loved all 3 episodes. I've enjoyed all of them. I actually thought the second episode felt like a really long episode, even it wasn't that much longer than the other ones. But it's interesting. It seems they've kind of like built a bit of a path now as to where this season is going to go. And I thought the 3rd episode was really good as well. It was kind of a bit of Mando at the beginning, and then a side story, which was awesome. What do you think of it so far?
I thought the first 2 were okay. Like I didn't have any issue with them, but equally didn't like absolutely love them. And I think part of that is probably because I was coming off of the back of Andor, and Andor just blew me away in terms of how they did that story.
It does take a while to get, these shows do take a while to kick in though, don't they? Like
Andor, a little bit.
Book of Boba,
Andor was,
they do.
Like they released 3 up front though, didn't they? Is that how they did it?
Yeah, they did, yeah. True, yeah.
Which probably helped because that's your first mini arc or whatever. But yeah, like for Mando, the first 2 I just thought were okay. And then the 3rd one I loved. And part of it was because you kind of had that like bookend of Mando's story. But then in the middle, you kind of got something that feels a bit Andor, where it's, I didn't know I needed to know what happens to like previous Imperial employees. Like, this is really interesting and bleak, and just felt kind of, again, like somebody had gone and looked at Star Wars and kind of said, okay, well, like what are the areas that nobody's really talking about that are like the kind of mundane but interesting? And I really liked that 3rd episode. I was
he's good actor, wasn't he? The guy in episode 3. I don't know who he is, but
he's been in a few things. But this 3rd episode I thought was great. So yeah,
I mean, you knew he was fucked, right? Like you knew she was obviously
it was never
working against him. It was all too easy to convince him to get the medikits and everything and that stuff. But it was quite brutal at the end for him, though. So
I thought that. Don't know what her endgame is either. I can't work it out, whether it's like she's still on Imperial side or whether she is on like Republic side, but she's doing it in a.
What did she gain from it though? That's what my wife Yannicka and I were saying. Like, what did she gain from it? Because she wanted him to carry on with his research, right?
Well, I don't know.
Got the medical stuff and then wiped his memory.
But my thought was like, is she still loyal to the Empire, and he's somebody who has genuinely disowned the Empire, and so therefore she is doing the harshest thing, which is I'm going to give you what you want, and then I'm going to take it away and more because you've, disowned the Empire and I'm loyal. But I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Testing loyalties. Like, is she trying to say like, I can break you into this, but then why would she have that much authority so quickly?
Yeah, don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I'm excited to see.
It was just a bit of a weird ending. I thought that she was going to get him to do. I thought we were going to get like a bit of a time jump that he would do his experiments and stuff, and then she would be feeding that to the Empire. But it went a bit of a different way at the end. But anyway, I really liked the bits in the mines as well.
Yeah,
Mandalorian mines. Like I liked like when he went into the water and there was a beast there, and
that's cool.
And I think it's all been really I think it's been consistently okay.
Yeah, I'd agree. Excellent.
All right, so I look forward to more of that. So I think we'll probably have to wrap it up there. It's been, Ant-Man sort of took off and took most of our time. Bloody Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So that's the end of this episode then. If you want to find more of us, you can find us on Twitter at ConsistentlyPod. You can find us on YouTube by searching for Consistently OK Podcast, and we upload all our episodes there. Our next episode is an in-depth, and we're still doing the Kevin Smith films, and that one is going to be all about Chasing Amy, which is the next one in our run of these in-depths.
The heaviest of all the films.
Heaviest of all the films. So it gets a bit happier after this. I mean, Dogma? No.
I mean, Dogma's quirky, right?
Dogma's got quirky, so it's got its good bits. So if you want to listen to any of our other ones, then we've already done Clerks, and we've done more, so you can find those as well. And that's it from us today.
Sweet.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be consistently back more regularly now after various things the last couple of months. So we look forward to you all tuning in, and everyone take care.
Yeah, see you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.